No one noticed him when he walked into the room. Not because he was invisible, but because people had already decided he didn't matter. Daniel Carter was the kind of person the world ignores quietly. Not loud enough to complain. Not confident enough to fight back. Not lucky enough to be born into privilege. Just there. And most people don't realize how dangerous that word is. Because when someone is just there, they carry pain silently. They suffer privately. And when they finally break, or finally rise, no one sees it coming. Daniel grew up in a small, broken apartment on the edge of the city. The paint on the walls was peeling. The heater barely worked in winter. And the sound of sirens at night was more common than lullabies. His father left when Daniel was 9. No goodbye, no explanation, just a door closing and never opening again. From that day on, Daniel's mother became everything. She worked 2 jobs, cleaned offices at night, packed lunches with tired hands, smiled even when her eyes were empty. And every single morning, she said the same words. "Daniel, you have to do better than me." Daniel nodded every time. But deep inside, he wondered, how do you do better when life already decided you won't? At school, Daniel wasn't bullied loudly. That would have been easier. He was bullied quietly, ignored in group projects, picked last in sports, teachers forgetting his name. Classmates laughed when he raised his hand. One day, a teacher looked at his test paper and sighed. "Daniel, this isn't good enough." He wanted to say, "I tried." He wanted to say, "I studied till midnight." But his voice didn't come out. So he lowered his head. Again, at lunch, he sat alone. Not because no one was there, but because no one wanted to be. He watched other kids laugh, plan futures, talk about dreams. Doctors, engineers, entrepreneurs. Daniel didn't talk about dreams. Dreams felt dangerous. Because dreaming and failing hurts more than never dreaming at all. When Daniel was 16, a school counselor called him in. She looked at his file, then at him, then back to the file. "Daniel," she said carefully, "you should consider realistic expectations." That sentence changed everything. Realistic expectations. It meant, don't aim high. Don't hope too much. Don't believe you're special. To them, Daniel was a statistic waiting to happen. Another kid from a broken home. Another future minimum wage worker. Another story that ends quietly. He nodded politely. But inside, something cracked. That night, Daniel sat on the edge of his bed. His mother was asleep in the next room, exhausted. Bills were spread on the table. Overdue notices. Red stamps. Threats wrapped in polite language. Daniel stared at the ceiling. And for the first time, a thought scared him. What if this is all life will ever be? What if effort doesn't matter? What if hard work doesn't change anything? What if some people are just born to lose? His chest felt tight. His breathing was shallow. He pressed his fists into his eyes, trying to stop the tears. Because crying felt like admitting defeat. That night, in a whisper so quiet the world couldn't hear it, Daniel made a promise. Not to anyone else. To himself. "I don't know how," he said softly. "I don't know when, but I will not stay small forever." No applause. No motivation speech. No cheering crowd. Just a tired boy, in a broken room, deciding not to give up. And sometimes, that is how legends quietly begin. Life didn't change just because Daniel made a promise. Promises don't scare reality. Actions do. And Daniel had a long way to go before his actions could speak. After high school, Daniel didn't get into a good college. Not because he wasn't capable, but because opportunity doesn't knock equally on every door. His grades were average. His confidence was low. And his family couldn't afford expensive applications or coaching. So while others posted acceptance letters online, Daniel stood in a small grocery store wearing a faded uniform. His first job, 8 hours a day, standing, lifting boxes, smiling at customers who barely looked at him. Some of his old classmates came in. They didn't recognize him at first. Then one of them laughed. "Daniel? Wow, you work here." That word, here, was sharper than any insult. Daniel smiled politely. "Yes," he said. They nodded awkwardly and walked away. But their laughter followed him into the storage room. Daniel worked hard. He always did. But hard work without direction feels like running in circles. Every paycheck disappeared the moment it arrived. Rent, electricity, groceries, bus pass, nothing left. Sometimes his mother apologized. "I'm sorry, Daniel," she said quietly. "You shouldn't have to do this." Daniel shook his head. "It's okay, Mom," he said. "We'll figure it out." But inside, fear was growing. What if I never escape this? What if effort still isn't enough? One evening, Daniel overheard two coworkers talking. People like us don't move up, one said. We survive. That's it. The other laughed. Yeah, dreams are for lucky people. Daniel pretended not to hear. But those words stayed. Because when doubt comes from outside, you can ignore it. When it comes from people living the same life as you, it feels real. Daniel tried to improve himself. He enrolled in a cheap online course at night. Marketing, business, skills that promised a better future. He studied after work. Eyes burning. My mind is exhausted. After months, he applied for entry-level jobs. One by one. Rejected. No experience. Not a good fit. We chose another candidate. One company didn't even reply. Daniel stared at his inbox late at night. Empty. That night, he closed his laptop slowly. And for the first time since that promise, he questioned himself. Maybe they're right. Maybe this is my limit. The breaking point came on a rainy evening. Daniel was walking home when his phone buzzed. A message from the grocery store manager. Hours cut next week. Daniel stopped walking. Rain soaked his clothes, but he didn't move. Hours cut meant less money. Less money meant danger. He reached home soaked and silent. His mother noticed immediately. What happened? She asked. Daniel tried to smile, but his face betrayed him. He sat down and broke. I'm trying so hard, he whispered. I'm doing everything I can, but nothing is working. His mother held his face gently. Her hands were rough from years of labor. Listen to me, she said. Life is not punishing you. It's testing how badly you want more. Daniel cried that night, not because he was weak, but because he was tired of being strong. The next morning, Daniel woke up early. Earlier than usual. He sat on the edge of his bed and thought deeply. He realized something painful, but important. No one was coming to save him. No mentor. No miracle. No shortcut. If his life was going to change, he had to change first. He stood up, opened his notebook, and wrote one sentence. I may be behind, but I am not finished. That sentence became his anchor. Daniel made a decision no one noticed. He stopped complaining, stopped explaining himself, stopped seeking approval. He focused. Every free minute became learning time. Every failure became feedback. Every insult became fuel. He didn't post motivational quotes. He lived with them quietly. And slowly, something started to shift. Not in his bank account, not in his status, but in his mindset. And that was the most dangerous change of all. They whisper. They sit quietly in your chest, growing heavier every day, until one morning, you wake up and realize you can't breathe the same way anymore. That's where Daniel was. Weeks passed. Daniel worked fewer hours at the store, studied harder at night, applied to more jobs, and still, nothing changed. Every rejection felt colder than the last. Not angry, not rude, just empty. You are not selected. That sentence became a routine. Daniel stopped checking his email with hope. He checked it with fear, because hope hurts when it keeps dying. One afternoon, Daniel stood behind the register as a well-dressed man argued with the cashier next to him. The man glanced at Daniel and snapped. Do something useful. Daniel flinched, not because of the words, but because they confirmed what he already felt. Useless, invisible, replaceable. He finished his shift without speaking. That night, he didn't open his laptop. For the first time in months, he didn't study. He just sat in the dark. At 2:17 a.m., Daniel stared at the ceiling and asked himself a question that terrified him. What if I give up and nothing changes? What if quitting hurts less than trying? What if acceptance is easier than hope? His chest tightened. Tears rolled down his temples into his ears. He didn't wipe them away. He didn't fight them. He let them fall. Because sometimes pain needs permission. The next evening, Daniel went for a walk. No destination. No plan. Just moving. Streetlights flickered above him. Cars passed without noticing. He crossed a small bridge near his apartment and stopped. The water below was dark and fast. For a moment, a dangerous moment, his mind went quiet. Not sad, not angry, just tired. He gripped the railing tightly and whispered, I'm exhausted. That was it. No dramatic thoughts. No plans. Just a soul asking for rest. His phone buzzed. Daniel looked down. A message from his mother. Did you eat? I left food for you. That was all. No lecture. No pressure. Just care. Daniel closed his eyes, and something inside him shifted. He remembered his mother's hands. Her tired smile. Her quiet sacrifices. He remembered the promise he made in that broken room years ago. I will not stay small forever. The water below kept moving. Life didn't stop. And suddenly, Daniel understood something powerful. Life wasn't asking him to quit. It was asking him to grow stronger. Daniel stepped back from the railing. His hands were shaking, but his mind was clear. He walked home slowly. When he entered the apartment, he ate the food his mother left. Then he opened his laptop. Not with motivation, with discipline. That night, he didn't chase dreams. He rebuilt the routine. Daniel stopped waiting to feel inspired. He worked when he was tired, studied when he felt empty, moved forward even when hope was quiet. He didn't talk about pain. He turned it into pressure. And pressure? Pressure creates diamonds. A week later, something small happened. Not a miracle. Not success. Just progress. An email arrived. Can we schedule an interview? Daniel stared at the screen. Read it twice. Then a third time. His heart didn't explode with joy. Instead, he felt calm. Because this time, he was ready. Not desperate. Prepared. And that made all the difference. That interview email stayed on Daniel's screen longer than it should have. Not because he was scared, but because for the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar. Possibility. Daniel didn't own a suit. So he ironed his cleanest shirt carefully, even though it was old. He polished his shoes until they looked newer than they were. He stood in front of the mirror and practiced answering questions out loud. Not perfectly, but honestly. Before leaving, his mother looked at him and smiled. You look confident, she said. Daniel paused. He hadn't felt confident, but he realized something powerful. Confidence isn't always something you feel first. Sometimes it's something you choose to show. The interview room was quiet. 3 people sat across the table. They didn't look impressed. They didn't look disappointed. They just looked neutral. And for once, Daniel didn't feel smaller. When they asked about his background, he didn't apologize for it. He explained it. When they asked about experience, he didn't lie. He spoke about learning, struggling, failing, improving. One interviewer raised an eyebrow. You've had a tough journey, she said. Daniel nodded calmly. Yes, he replied. But it taught me discipline. That sentence surprised even him. Daniel walked out of the building without overthinking. No replaying mistakes. No self-hate. He had done his best. And that was new. 2 days later, the email arrived. Congratulations. We'd like to offer you the position. Daniel read it slowly. Then once more. His hands shook. Not because he had made it, but because for the first time, life had responded. The job didn't pay much. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a step forward. Daniel celebrated quietly with his mother that night. Simple food. Soft laughter. Relief. I'm proud of you, she said. Daniel smiled. He wasn't proud yet, but he was no longer ashamed. The new job was demanding. Deadlines. Pressure. Expectations. But Daniel thrived under structure. He arrived early, left late, asked questions, took notes. While others complained, Daniel observed. While others waited for instructions, Daniel learned systems. He wasn't trying to impress. He was trying to grow. Daniel started waking up 1 hour earlier. Every day? No excuses. That hour was his secret weapon. He read, learned skills, improved himself quietly. No one noticed. And that was perfect. Because real growth doesn't announce itself. 3 months later, the company faced a crisis. A project failed. The clients were unhappy. The team panicked. People pointed fingers. Daniel stayed calm. He offered a solution. Not loudly. Not aggressively. Just clearly. The room went silent. The manager looked at him. Can you handle this? She asked. Daniel nodded. Yes. Daniel worked nonstop for days. Mistakes happened. Stress hit hard. But he didn't quit. When the project finally stabilized, something changed. People looked at him differently. Not with pity. Not with surprise. With respect. One afternoon, his manager called him in. You've grown fast, she said. Daniel listened quietly. We want to give you more responsibility. Daniel walked out of that room stunned. Because years ago, someone had told him to keep his expectations realistic. And now, reality was expanding. That night, Daniel sat on his bed and smiled. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just deeply. He hadn't escaped struggle, but he had escaped hopelessness. And that was everything. Success didn't arrive with celebration. It arrived with more responsibility. And responsibility is heavy when you've never been trusted before. Daniel's workload doubled. Emails never stopped. Deadlines stacked. Expectations rose quickly. He worked during lunch. Stayed late after hours. Answered calls on weekends. Some nights, he reached home exhausted, barely able to speak. His mother noticed. You're working too hard, she said gently. Daniel smiled. I have to, he replied. I can't waste this chance. While others relaxed after work, Daniel stayed focused. Friends stopped inviting him out. Messages went unanswered. Sleep became short and light. Loneliness crept in, not the loud kind, the quiet kind that sits beside you while you work. But Daniel understood something now. Temporary sacrifice creates permanent change. 6 months into the job, the pressure peaked. A major client threatened to leave. The team was blamed. Management demanded answers. Daniel was assigned to lead the recovery. It was risky. If he failed, his reputation would collapse. Some coworkers whispered, "He's not ready. He's trying too hard. He'll break." Daniel heard them. And this time, they didn't hurt. Daniel planned carefully. Late nights turned into early mornings. Mistakes turned into lessons. He studied cases, tested solutions, refined strategies. No shortcuts, just discipline. The final presentation day arrived. Daniel stood in front of executives. His heart beat fast, but his mind was calm. He spoke clearly, confidently, without apology. When he finished, the room was silent. Then, nods, questions, approval. The client stayed. The crisis ended. That day, Daniel wasn't congratulated loudly. But something far more important happened. He was trusted. His manager stopped checking every detail. Colleagues asked for advice. His voice mattered. Daniel walked home that evening slowly. He looked at the city lights and realized this was what progress felt like. Yet success brought a new enemy. Fear. Fear of losing it all. Fear of slipping back. Fear of becoming comfortable. Daniel reminded himself daily. Comfort is the enemy of growth. So he kept pushing. Months passed. No viral moments. No sudden wealth. Just steady improvement. Daniel saved money. Helped his mother relax. Paid bills on time. Simple victories. Powerful ones. Daniel didn't feel superior. He felt grounded. He no longer needed validation. Because deep inside, he knew. He was no longer running in circles. He was building something real. And just when life felt stable, it tested him again. A message arrived late one night. "We need to talk tomorrow." Daniel stared at his phone. He didn't panic, but he knew. Another challenge was coming. The meeting the next day wasn't what Daniel expected. It was better. His manager closed the door and smiled. "We want to promote you," she said. Daniel blinked. Promote. The word echoed in his head. "You've earned it," she continued. "Your consistency, your leadership, it hasn't gone unnoticed." Daniel nodded slowly. Inside, his heart raced. Years ago, someone had told him to keep his expectations low. Now life was raising them for him. The promotion came with more responsibility, better pay, a sense of security. Daniel called his mother immediately. "We did it," he said quietly. She paused. Then I cried. Not loudly. The relieved kind. That night, they ate dinner together without stress hanging in the air. For the first time in years, bills were paid early. Daniel walked differently now. Not proud, but lighter. He didn't feel rich. He felt free from fear. Fear of tomorrow. Fear of hunger. Fear of being stuck forever. And that freedom was priceless. But success has a quiet trap. Comfort. Daniel noticed it creeping in. Sleeping a little longer. Studying a little less. Thinking, I deserve rest. And rest is important. But comfort is addictive. One evening, Daniel overheard a senior employee say, "I stopped pushing once I got here." Big mistake. Those words hit him hard. Daniel remembered the bridge. The doubt. The pain. He knew. He could never forget where he came from. Daniel set new goals. Not for money. Not for status. For growth. He started mentoring juniors. Learning advanced skills. Thinking long-term. He wasn't chasing promotion anymore. He was building value. People began introducing him differently. "This is Daniel. He gets things done." That sentence meant more to him than any title. Because it was earned. On his birthday, Daniel didn't throw a party. He sat with his mother and looked at old photos. A tired boy. A struggling family. A journey few saw. He smiled softly. Because he knew. This was only the beginning. Late one evening, Daniel received a message from a former classmate. "Hey, heard you're doing well. Can we talk?" Daniel stared at the screen. The past was knocking, and it wasn't done testing him yet. The message from his old classmate stayed unread for hours. Not because Daniel was busy, but because he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Unease. That night, Daniel finally replied. They met at a small cafe. The classmate smiled politely. "You've changed," he said. Daniel nodded. "Yes," he replied. I had to. The conversation drifted to memories. School. Teachers. Dreams that never happened. Then the real reason surfaced. I'm starting a business, the classmate said. I need someone reliable. Someone smart. Daniel listened carefully. The offer sounded promising. Too promising. The plan lacked structure. The numbers didn't add up. The timeline was rushed. Daniel felt it in his chest. This wasn't right. But temptation whispered. This could make you rich faster. This could change everything overnight. And temptation is loud when ambition is awake. Against his better judgment, Daniel invested time. Late nights. Side work. Mental energy. His performance at his job slipped. Small mistakes appeared. Focus weakened. His manager noticed. So much potential, she said carefully. Don't lose it. Daniel promised he wouldn't. But pressure was building from both sides. 2 months later, the truth came out. The business wasn't stable. Funds disappeared. Promises broke. The classmate vanished. Daniel stared at his bank account. Loss. Not just money. Trust. Time. Focus. At work, Daniel missed a deadline. For the first time in years. The disappointment on his manager's face hurt more than anger. You're better than this, she said. Daniel nodded. Ashamed. That night, he couldn't sleep. Not from fear. From regret. Daniel realized something painful. Success doesn't fail you. You fail success when you stop protecting it. He had ignored discipline. Chased shortcuts. Forgot patience. And life corrected him immediately. Daniel didn't blame anyone. He didn't make excuses. He owned it. The next morning, he apologized at work. Fully. Honestly. I lost focus, he said. It won't happen again. Silence filled the room. Then his manager nodded. Prove it, she said. Daniel cut off distractions. No side deals. No shortcuts. No ego. He doubled down on fundamentals. Early mornings returned. Focused nights followed. He rebuilt what he almost lost. Brick by brick. This setback didn't break Daniel. It refined him. He understood now. Real success isn't about rising fast. It's about staying upright when tested. Weeks later, stability returned. Trust slowly rebuilt. Confidence restored. But Daniel was different now. Sharper. Wiser. More disciplined. He had looked failure in the eye and walked away stronger. Daniel didn't rush his comeback. He respected it. Because rushing is how he fell last time. This time, Daniel moved differently. No distractions. No shortcuts. No loud plans. Every action had purpose. Every hour had value. He focused on mastering his role, not escaping it. And mastery attracts opportunity quietly. One afternoon, senior leadership announced a new internal initiative. A high-risk project. A few volunteers stepped forward. Daniel raised his hand. Not impulsively. Confidently. The room went quiet. Someone whispered, "Is he ready?" Daniel didn't answer. He didn't need to. The project demanded everything. Strategy. Patience. Leadership. Daniel worked harder than ever. But now he worked smarter. He delegated. Listened. Corrected without ego. Mistakes happened. He owned them. Solutions followed. Slowly, people noticed. Not his speed. His stability. Meetings ran smoother. Decisions felt grounded. Results improved. Leadership stopped checking in. They trusted him. One evening, Daniel sat alone after work. The office lights dim. He thought about the boy who once stood on a bridge. Tired. Lost. Unsure. That boy wouldn't recognize him now. Not because he became rich, but because he became steady. When the project ended, the numbers spoke clearly. Success. The team was praised. The strategy was adopted company-wide. Daniel didn't celebrate loudly. He simply smiled. Because this success felt earned. Weeks later, Daniel received another call. Leadership wanted him in a bigger role. More authority. More impact. Daniel accepted. Not with pride. With responsibility. Daniel didn't chase validation anymore. He chased excellence. He mentored others. Shared lessons honestly. Warned them about shortcuts. He became what he once needed. Daniel slept better. Not because life was perfect, but because he trusted himself. He knew, no matter what came next, he could handle it. Just when everything felt aligned, life prepared one final challenge. One that would test not his skills, but his character. Daniel was offered leadership over a regional expansion. High visibility. High pressure. High reward. This wasn't just a promotion. It was a defining moment. He accepted without hesitation. Millions were involved. Reputations were at risk. Competitors played dirty. Deadlines were brutal. Daniel worked day and night. Focused. Calm. precise. Midway through the project, a competitor approached him quietly. An offer, a shortcut, information that would guarantee success. All it required was silence and compromise. Daniel didn't respond immediately. He asked for time. That night, he couldn't sleep. He remembered his mother's words. Do better than me. Not richer. Better. He remembered the bridge, the promises, the pain, and he realized this was the moment everything had prepared him for. The next morning, Daniel refused. Firmly. Professionally. No drama. No negotiation. The competitor left angry. Daniel exhaled. He felt lighter. Refusing the offer meant uncertainty. The project could fail. Daniel could lose everything. But he chose integrity over comfort. Weeks later, the results came in. The project succeeded. Cleanly. Legally. Respectfully. The leadership was stunned. Not just by results. By how they were achieved. Daniel was promoted again. This time, not just in position, but in influence. His voice mattered beyond his department. That evening, Daniel went home and hugged his mother. Long. Quiet. I did it the right way, he said. She smiled. That's all that ever mattered. Daniel understood now. Success isn't money. It isn't a title. It's sleeping peacefully, knowing you didn't betray yourself. Daniel didn't disappear into success. He turned back. Even after everything, Daniel still walked past the same streets, the same grocery store, the same bus stops, the same quiet corners where hope once felt fragile. But now he walked with purpose, not to prove anything, but to remember. Daniel started small. He mentored students from broken homes, spoke at local community centers, listened more than he talked. He didn't tell them to dream big. He told them to build slowly. Discipline will take you places motivation never can, he said. One evening, Daniel stood on the same bridge where he once felt lost. The water below still moved fast, but he wasn't tired anymore. He smiled softly, because the boy who once stood there had survived. His mother sat beside him at home that night. You did more than succeed, she said. You stayed kind. Daniel nodded. That mattered most. If you're watching this and you feel invisible, if you're tired of trying, if life keeps telling you not yet, listen carefully. Your struggle is not a sentence. It is a chapter. You don't need luck. You need consistency when no one is watching. Growth is slow. Progress is quiet. Success is built when quitting feels easier. But if you stay, if you keep going, one day, life will respond. And when it does, make sure you rise without forgetting who you were. Because the strongest people are not those who win, but those who never give up on themselves.